We are anonymous, your source for deep dive, military and war analysis reporting. Today we bring you an expanded, detailed narrative ready for audio of a battle at sea that looks like drug enforcement, but in reality marks the front line of a new kind of warfare. It was October the 20th, 2025. Before dawn, the Caribbean lay quiet. The water looked black as oil, the sky heavy and still. Then came movement. A convoy of ships steamed through those dark waters. No lights, no signals, no names. Above, a Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft cut through the clouds. Its infrared sensors painted the sea with heat maps. What it found changed everything. 5 vessels moving in tight formation. Each flew a fake humanitarian flag. Each carried no registered cargo. Each broadcast a fake transponder ID that led nowhere. Within minutes, the call went out. From Quantico to Key West. From the Drug Enforcement Administration to the Fifth Fleet. Operation Bluecurrent was active. The target, a floating drug empire worth over $10 billion, an industrial network hiding beneath the waves. At 0200 hours, the U.S. cutter USS Hamilton, a Legend-class ship, altered course toward the given coordinates. Engines roared, deck lights flared. A joint task force, Navy and DEA agents moved to intercept. Risk wasn't part of the vocabulary. Precision was, because on this night, the line between crime and war would disappear. In the months before, the signs had been stacking up. Shipping patterns that made no sense. Cargo manifests filled in with perfect numbers, but impossible weights. One question echoing on the DEA command floor in Quantico. Where was the product coming from? Analysts traced the routes. Mahaku, Bonia, Panama. Dozens of ghost freighters sailing under shell company names. Never docking, never unloading. They weren't smugglers anymore. They were engineers building a new kind of empire, floating chemical factories hidden in plain sight across the Caribbean corridor. Inside, intercepted encrypted traffic. One phrase kept appearing: projectazurereef. It was a code name for ocean-based production platforms capable of synthesizing methamphetamine and fentanyl precursors on site. Each platform powered by lithium reactors and stabilizers traced back to Shenzhen, China. By mid-October, intelligence converged. Satellite scans, human assets, intercepted calls all pointed to a convoy departing from Venezuelan waters, escorted by private security boats armed with heavy machine guns. The Pentagon issued authorization under Operation Bluecurrent. Joint Command U.S. Navy and DEA. Mission parameters: intercept. ZESA dismantle at 0247 local time. Radar contact confirmed. 5 vessels, 60 nautical miles off Cartagena. No response to hails. No navigation lights. On board the USS Hamilton, Commander Dale Spencer stood over the combat display. Targets confirmed. Formation north by northwest. Speed 12 knots. Spencer nodded once. Shadow 6. Prepare for boarding. 2 Riven 4 assault boats dropped into the water, dark hulls slicing the waves. Above an MH-60, Romeo Seahawk circled wide, rotors beating the humid Caribbean air. Higher still, the Poseidon scanned for heat signatures. Even further, an MQ-9 reaperdrone locked its sensors at 20,000 Fahrenheit. Then chaos erupted. One of the cartel ships opened fire. Red tracers arced through the night. DSK heavy machine guns spat from the deck. Contact. The radio snapped. Alarms blared. Deck guns powered up on the Hamilton's bow. The Mark 11,057 mm gun roared short surgical bursts. Each round slammed into gun mounts with pinpoint accuracy. The cartel's fire ceased within seconds. Minimal lethal response, the commander ordered. We take them alive. But the ocean had other plans. A second ship detonated, a white flash splitting the horizon. Chemical drums ignited, painting the sky in blue fire. On the bridge, Spencer steadied his voice. All units advance. Secure the site. The Seahawk banked low. Its GAU, 21 door gun, spitting bursts that ripped through the deck of the nearest vessel. DEA agents from Shadow 6 fast roped down amid smoke and twisted metal. They moved fast, cutting hatches, subduing the remaining crew. Below deck, the discovery stunned even the veterans. Industrial drums labeled in Mandarin. Lithium reactors built for long-duration synthesis. Stacks of false shipping documents stamped with Venezuelan customs seals. "This isn't street chemistry," one agent muttered through his respirator. "This is state engineering." At that moment, one ship broke formation, throttling toward Venezuelan waters. Its engine roared, trailing smoke. "Target attempting escape," came the call. From 10,000 feet above, the Reaper adjusted course, its laser locked. One click later, a Hellfire missile screamed down. Impact. A column of fire rose into the sky. The fleeing vessel vanished in a boiling cloud of steam and fuel. Silence followed. No more radar contacts. No return fire. Only the crackle of burning oil and the hum of the cutter's engines. By dawn, the Caribbean was still again. 5 ships destroyed or captured. Hundreds of chemical barrels recovered. And beneath it all, the first hard evidence that America's war on drugs had crossed into something far more dangerous. As Spencer watched the flames fade into the horizon, he spoke quietly to his XO. "This wasn't just a bust," he said. "It was a battle." By sunrise, the horizon was still burning. Columns of smoke drifted across, the sea marking the graves of ships that had carried the world's most powerful narcotics network. But the sea battle was only half the war. While sailors and agents secured wreckage, another operation was already moving, not on water, but on land. In Bogotá, encrypted orders flashed through the DEA Joint Command. Within minutes, Colombiannationalpolice and DEA field teams moved in unison. Targets: Barranquilla, Cartagena, 2 of the cartel's industrial hubs. Each location shielded by civilian fronts, import firms, fuel depots, charity warehouses. At 0800 hours, the raids began. Helicopters thundered over the coast. Armored trucks rolled through narrow streets. Inside warehouses, agents found unexpected scenes. Not just drugs, but machines. Rows of 3D printers, racks of lithium power cells, blueprints for miniature submarines, unmanned, disposable, built to ferry payloads across international waters. Every room told the same story: industrial scale, military discipline, corporate funding. This wasn't a cartel hiding in jungles. It was an organization that thought like an army and moved like a state. Inside one compound, agents uncovered something darker still. A server room, air-conditioned, sealed, running 24/7. When cyber forensics cracked the drives, they found encrypted ledgers listing transactions across Macau, Dubai, and Hong Kong. Millions laundered through shell companies tied to offshore logistics firms. At the CIA's Langley headquarters, analysts followed the trail. Each wire led deeper into financial corridors, protected by diplomatic immunity. And behind the numbers, one signature kept appearing. Colonel Rafael Ortega, a Venezuelan intelligence officer under sanctions since 2023. It was the link no one wanted to see. State protection, foreign logistics, Chinese technology, all converging to sustain a $10 billion narcotics empire designed to destabilize the hemisphere. As raids continued, more names surfaced: engineers with the dual passports, technicians trained in Shenzhen, brokers with ties to Middle Eastern financial fronts. This wasn't random corruption. It was architecture. By that afternoon, the National Securities Council convened in Washington. Screens glowed inside the Situation Room. Maps of the Caribbean filled the walls, red dots marking every confirmed node of Projectazurereef. The DEA briefed first. 6 vessels neutralized, over 200 chemical drums secured. "We believe we've disrupted a global manufacturing chain." Then the Navy took the floor. Admiral Kingsley, Pacific Command, spoke. "Admiral, what are we dealing with?" the President asked. Kingsley leaned forward. "With respect, sir, this wasn't a drug convoy. This was logistics warfare. Someone's testing how far we'll let them go. The room fell silent. For the analysts, this was the first time narcotics had been mapped like a military campaign. Assets redundancy, rapid replacement. The entire system mirrored state-level supply chains, not criminal improvisation. A CIA slide appeared. Photos of carbon fiber hulls, modular reactors, composite fuel lines recovered from the wrecks. Each component bore a manufacturer code from a sanctioned Chinese corporation. Each shipment routed through Venezuelan customs, stamped as marine research equipment. The evidence was clear. Venezuela was acting as a proxy, channeling foreign materials and funds into cartel infrastructure, transforming organized crime into a geopolitical weapon. At Quantico, forensic chemists confirmed it. Traces of military-grade stabilizers and lithium polymer compounds matched restricted industrial formulas. These weren't made in a jungle lab. They came from state-licensed facilities. Within hours, analysts pieced together the larger picture. The cartel's blue current route wasn't just about drugs, it was about influence, saturating American communities with synthetic narcotics, draining billions via money laundering, and funneling profits into foreign black budgets. "This is hybrid warfare," one intelligence officer said quietly. "It looks like crime, but it acts like strategy." Meanwhile, in Cartagena, units escorted high-value detainees under armored convoy. Among them, Luis Marquez Rojas, heir to a family that once controlled Gulf corridors. For years, he hid behind philanthropy and offshore banks. Now handcuffed, silent, he stared at the sea where his empire had burned. At the same time, U.S. Navy divers recovered black boxes from the sunken ships. Inside, encrypted hard drives, navigation data, communication logs, digital receipts linking shipments to a logistics firm registered in Macau. Every file pointed to the same pattern: structured financing, state assistance, coordinated protection. The Pentagon's final assessment landed on the president's desk that evening. The report was blunt. The Marquez Rojas network represents an evolution of narcotics trafficking into hybridized conflict. Their operations rely on state-sponsored technology, commercial front companies, and military-grade engineering. The objective appears not only economic, but destabilizing, targeting the United States through addiction, corruption, and influence. The message? The era of simple drug cartels is over. What America confronted in the Caribbean wasn't a gang, it was an industrial empire, sanctioned, shielded, strategic. Back aboard the USS Hamilton, Commander Spencer received the encrypted transmission from Washington. Operation Blue Current had officially transitioned to Operation Red Current, authorization for continued interdictions, cyber strikes, and financial sanctions across multiple jurisdictions. As night fell again, the cutter steamed slowly through calm waters. The fires were out the horizon, dark once more. But the war had shifted. Spencer stood on deck, eyes fixed on the stars above the Black Sea. "This started with a shipment," he said quietly to his XO. The XO nodded. "That America will not fight shadows," he said, "but the hands that cast them." In that moment, under the Caribbean sky, the battle lines of a new kind of war had been drawn, not just between law and crime, but between order and chaos, between sovereignty and subversion. And somewhere beyond the horizon, in the quiet offices of foreign capitals, someone was already calculating their next move. Because when one empire falls, another begins to rise. By dawn, the Caribbean was silent again. The smoke had thinned. The sea, once burning with fire and fuel, now mirrored the rising sun. On the horizon, the silhouette of the USS Hamilton moved through a field of debris, calm, steady, unshaken. Below deck, DEA agents cataloged the evidence: chemical drums, digital ledgers, fragments of composite hulls stamped with foreign serials. In total, over $10 billion in narcotics and equipment seized or destroyed, 27 arrests, 4 high-value detainees, the largest maritime drug seizure in American history. The headline spoke of victory, But inside the Pentagon, the tone was different, quieter, heavier, because what they had uncovered was more than a criminal network. It was a glimpse of the future. Hybrid warfare fought not with missiles, but with markets, not with armies, but with addiction. And for the first time, America had struck back, not as a victim, but as a nation reclaiming control of its own seas. At Quantico, analysts reviewed the data one final time. One of them whispered the truth everyone understood. The next war, he said, may not begin with soldiers. It may begin with cargo, out at sea. Commander Spencer watched the American flag ripple in the wind. He had seen the cost, the fire, the loss, the endless cycle. But he also knew what it meant to fight for order. When the world seemed to slip toward chaos, he turned to his crew. "Remember this night," he said, "because justice doesn't rest. It sails." The camera fades with the hum of engines, the horizon glowing gold. When America acts, there is no safe harbor. For those who poison its people, the sea remembers. The mission continues. We are anonymous. If you've listened this far, it's time to act. Share this story. Tell others. Don't let these operations stay in the shadows. Stay alert. Stay informed. Because we are anonymous, and we report so you can know.